Welcome to the FURO-K. The FURO-K is a robot developed by the Future Robotics Company of Korea. The robot is designed as a humanoid social kiosk robot that is deployed to many human interaction environments, such as malls and hospitals. The idea behind the FURO-K is to have a human-like robot to help bear the burden of interaction, so that human workers are capable of dealing with more customers over time. The FURO-K has a human-like face that animates its emotions based on the situation it faces. It also has a second full touchscreen for humans to interact with, as well as voice commands and other options. The robot also has many optional peripherals, such as a card reader and an IR blaster. In its current production run, the FURO-K is being mostly used in a hospital setting, as a guide for incoming patients and family who are looking to visit relatives. The robot directs its users to hospital rooms, appointments, doctor's offices, and more, as well as providing office layout maps and cafeteria hours and menus. In this way, the robot can answer basic questions that patients may have, allowing receptionists to deal with patients that may have more complicated requests. In a similar vein, I wanted to expand the functionality of this robot so that it may be used in other hospitality settings. Specifically, I wanted to design a GUI for the FURO-K so that it could be used in hotels. My interface has two functionalities, a clerk mode and a tourist mode. Depending on the needs of the hotel at the time, the robot can be used to help travelers and business people with their most basic needs when staying at a hotel. In searching for research related to the FURO-K robot system, I couldn't actually find anything related directly to anything that Future Robots has put out. However, I found two studies that were related in other ways that I thought would be interesting to incorporate into my own project. The first was on how people engaged with robotic kiosks. Essentially, this study, done by people at Carnegie Mellon University, found that people have two different ways of engaging with robotic kiosks. The first suggests that people usually treat the robots as if they were other people, thinking that they can have conversations with them and that they are socially inclined. The second suggests that people will treat the robots as if they were unthinking machines, that they prefer the interactions to be as minimalistic as possible, and that they'd rather not actually have conversations with these robots. Based on the first few words that people engage the robots with, the researchers determined what style that they would use to engage the robots and figured out that they could make interactions become more user-friendly based on changing the style to adapt to the user's preference. The second study, done in conjunction with National Defense Academy and Carnegie Mellon University, focused on social robots that stand in line. This study watched a robot as it tried to determine the end of a human line, wait in line with other people, and maintain an appropriate social distance from the other customers so that it could order a cup of coffee at the front. Both of these studies were interesting to me in that I thought I could incorporate them in my FURO-K robot system for the hotel. Based on the results of the voice study, I decided not to include a robotic voice command at this time with my system. Based on the results of the line study, I thought I could incorporate into the kiosk a mobilized version so that it could trace the people that were already waiting in line at a hotel to determine who was first and who it should wait on before other customers. The design for my GUI had to be as user-friendly as possible. People from all backgrounds will potentially be using this system, so I needed to make it as obvious and pared down as I could. With this in mind, I simplified the first version of my design to have bold buttons with clear text and minimal options available. These were my requirements for each version of the system. The clerk mode needed to have these options available. First, a payment method. The customer would swipe their credit card and be presented with their information matching the credit card that they had on hand. Second, a display that would present the user with the information for confirmation of their reservation at the hotel. Third, an option to edit any incorrect information that was presented back to them on the screen. And finally, a help button that would call over an actual employee of the hotel in case any problems arose. The tourist mode needed to have these features. First, functions that would display local events and venues in the area so the customer could have an idea of what was going on when they were in town. Second, a way to pull up local restaurants based on the cuisine that they were looking for that night. Third, a listing of local bus and subway routes and the times that they appeared and where they were able to be found. And fourth, a listing of cab companies and their numbers so that a cab could be called to the hotel. Now, let's take a look at the final system design that I decided on. This is my final system design. In this design, the customer is first presented with an option to swipe their credit card. The FURO-K has a card reader built into the actual kiosk of the robot and so allows users to swipe their credit card and will be presented with information that is related to the credit card that the hotel has on hand. Once the credit card is swiped, the user will be presented with the information that is related to their reservation. Their name, the date of their reservation, the occupancy, amenities, smoking, and number of nights that they've reserved will appear, as long as how much is due at the time. If the user has anything that they need to change, they can click on the Change Reservation button, which will present them with this option. The field to update is a drop-down box that allows the user to choose what they need to update, and below they can type in the new value of what they need to change. Once they save, they'll be brought back to their initial screen with any changes that they've made. If everything looks okay at the time, they can click Pay Now, which will pay the amount that is told due above the Pay Now button. Confirmation will be presented, and the keycard will be dispensed below the robot. If anything goes wrong at any time during this operation, the Help button can be presented. Help is on the way will be shown, and an actual employee of the hotel will be brought over to the robot to help the customer fix any problems that they have. My interface also comes with a second view that the hotel can choose to swap to at any point. This is what the tourist view looks like. In this mode, you have 5 options: call a cab, bus and subway, nearby restaurants, venues, and local events. In Call a Cab, a listing of all local cab companies, their phone numbers, and the color of the taxi appears on the screen. This way, the user can call any cab company that they choose and know what it looks like when it appears at the hotel to pick them up. In Bus and Subway, a timed listing of all bus and subway routes in the area appears on the screen. On the right-hand side, a map and location directory of where bus and subway routes in the area are appears, as well as a time listing on the left-hand side. In nearby restaurants, a directory of cuisines appears on the left, as well as a drop-down menu of cuisines that appear on the right. In the drop-down menu, users can select what type of cuisine that they want to eat for that day, and will update the directory on the left-hand side of the screen to be specific to that type of cuisine and where it is within the area. In venues, a graphical icon set appears on the left-hand side, as well as a drop-down menu that appears on the right-hand side. Users can either use the icons or the drop-down menu to select venues, such as movie theaters, golf courses, concert halls, and clubs, to choose what type of venue they'd like to go to while they're in the area and what type of events are going on at specific venues at the time. Instead of this, users also have the option to view specific local events. Upcoming events within a specific radius of the hotel will show up on the screen, and in this area, users can sort by what type of event they'd like to go to, such as concert, club, or movie. With this current system, I'd like to engage in a short user study to see how other people use the system. With about 40 participants, all speaking English, I'd like to hold an observational session where researchers are allowed to record the out loud thoughts of all users that test out my GUI. As they go through each stage, I'd like them to speak out loud their thoughts of what they don't and do like about each of the buttons and features. At the end of the observational period, which is about 5 to 10 minutes long, I'd like to have a more formalized electronic online study that allows them to actually write down and record their own thoughts of exactly what they feel after the study has been completed. During the session, I'd like them to include features that they'd like to see and pieces that they were confused or didn't like during the actual GUI that they interacted with. If anyone would like to test out my GUI as it is now, the link here at the top of the page will direct you to what I have currently. Below is my email if anybody has any questions for me, which I'll be happy to respond to as soon as I get back to my email. I'm sorry I couldn't be there today, and thank you for listening to my presentation.